Good afternoon and welcome to our program, Heart-to-Heart program at KMET 1490 AM ABC News Radio Live. I'm Dr. Mitra Rashidian, licensed marriage and family therapist and a certified sexologist, along with my business partner, colleague, and my very best friend, Dr. Robert Jaffe, offering you the second part of our program. This is new addition to our program at this time, right? We usually had this program on Fridays, and now we have switched back to Thursdays. So welcome to our new listeners, viewers, and we're glad to be a part of your life. Thank you for you being a part of our life and sharing this beautiful hour with us. And in this section we are going to be talking about codependency, trauma, addiction, and all impacting relationships. In our first hour, if you were there with us, we talked about human sexuality, erectile dysfunction. So now we're going to be continuing with the other topic. However, the topic of sexuality may happen. And we would like to invite you to please call us, share your opinion, share your questions. Our phone number here live is 951-922-3532. And if if you can introduce this program to those that you believe they can benefit from it, we really appreciate that. So welcome to our program. We're so glad to be here at 4 o'clock, our new time. And Dr. Jaffe.
Yes, ma'am.
Welcome.
Thank you. We are very happy to be here. This part of our hour is going to be talking about relationships, codependency, and codependency we've defined earlier in our Friday shows as that part of us that doesn't feel like we are worthy without somebody else clapping. So we need to prove to other people that we're worthwhile, and so we try and walk on eggshells to prove that we are lovable and that we're good and that we are important. And so those are some of the characteristics of codependency. People, one of my clients talked about that he's in a relationship where his wife calls him a narcissist, and she does it in an accusing and an attacking way, basically saying, using the word narcissist as you're only interested in making yourself feel good and you don't really care about my feelings or anybody else's. We're just tools for you to feel good about yourself.
Right.
Narcissism has, I think, been, unfortunately in our society, it's been misused as a dirty word.
Yes.
Because there is such a thing as healthy narcissism, and there's such a thing as unhealthy narcissism. And so today I thought we would talk a little bit about what the differences are. We all have an ego, and we all have a spirit. And our ego is there to make sure that we survive, and our ego is there to look out for danger. And so who amongst us does not want to survive? And who amongst us wants to be ignorant of danger, right? Nobody. We all want to survive, and we all want to understand what's dangerous and what isn't dangerous. And so that part of us that we call the ego, that's what that part does. And so the ego is about me, right? It's about me.
It's about survival, and it's fear-based.
And it's fear-based because it needs to be fear-based so it can recognize things that can harm it, right? And so the ego is part of the human being. The ego has been with us since the dawn of time. The ego will be with us as long as we have bodies. And since we don't plan on not having bodies for the time being, I think we're going to say the ego is going to be with us for a long, long time, right? So we value our bodies. Many think that they are our bodies. They are their bodies. And so if you believe that you are your body, then you're going to value your body even more. So the way that I look at it is that we are human beings. The human part is the body. The human and the body is the vehicle that takes us around. And we need our bodies in order to be healthy, in order for us to take us around the world, wherever we go, and to have positive experiences. If our bodies aren't working well, it's harder to have positive experiences. It's not impossible. There are people whose bodies don't work very well at all, but are still happy, and that's a possibility. But not if you think you're your body. If you think you're your body, then if your body isn't working well, then you're never going to be happy, right? Until your body works well. So the ego is in charge of keeping us safe, keeping us aware of the fact that we can be injured, that our bodies can be injured, and our bodies can be destroyed. And so most of us say that's not a good thing. We want our bodies to be healthy, so we need our ego there to make sure that we're safe. So that's the human part of the human being. The other part of the human being is the being, right? So we are a being. Is our being just our body? And um, everyone that has been religious and has studied anything about religion uh, realizes that the people that we have claimed as people that we look up to in terms of religion, the Mohammeds, the Jesus, um, the Krishnas, all, these people all said the same thing. They said we're not our bodies.
Right.
They said that we are spirit. Spirit is energy. So that's what I think of as the being part of the human being. It's our spiritual part. It's the part that's not that it's the part of us that has a body but is not the body.
Right.
Right. So narcissism, going back to that, narcissism is about our ego, and we have and given that we have a body and we're going to always have an ego, we have a choice as to whether that ego runs us or whether we run our ego. And my belief is that the majority of us as human beings are run by our ego. Uh, the people who I look up to, and the people that I want to emulate, and the people that I think of as being the spiritual gurus, um, do not do not use the do not allow their ego to run them. And so we have, but we're always going to have an ego. So we have a choice as to whether our ego runs us or we run our ego. And if we run our ego, then we can be called healthy narcissists. If our ego runs us, then we will probably fall into the category of unhealthy narcissists.
Yes.
Right? So a healthy narcissist, I think of as somebody who has a true self. A true self is the part of us that feels our feelings and that can have compassion and understanding for other people, and that does not see ourselves as being alone in the world, although we are very important to ourselves, that there are other people that we also believe are as or almost as important as we are, right? So the true self um, has a positive ego. The false self or the codependent self has an ego that is dependent on other people's validation. And so uh, the true self has humility. The true self says, I am not the beginning of everything, and I am not the end of everything. I am part of everything, and I'm not here alone. There are billions of us on the planet, and we're all here together, and we all have a role to play. We all come to Earth with gifts. I believe that firmly, usually more than one, and we all have our own perspectives. Nobody has exactly the same outlook as somebody else. We share similar outlooks, but nothing is exactly the same. So no two people are the same. Um, and whatever we choose to do for a living, nobody does that exactly in the same way. We all bring to it our own particular outlook and our own particular gifts. So the unhealthy ego believes that it is the alpha and the omega, right? The beginning and the end of everything. So the unhealthy ego says that I am the smartest, I am the best, nobody is as good as me, nobody compares to me. The healthy ego says I'm smart, I'm good, I'm excellent at what I do, but I'm not in competition with anyone else because I have my own gifts that I'm bringing, and so my gifts are unique to me.
Right. So
Uh,
one question that emerges here, when we, like you said, when we talk about, we say the word narcissism is like a dirty word, right?
correct.
The healthy behavior that you're describing right now, what makes it narcissism?
Oh, well, narcissism simply means that we're interested in ourselves.
Great. Yeah,
Right.
that's what I wanted to be
Yeah.
mentioned. Yes,
Yes.
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 And in lay language or other form of language, we call that selfish. If
Yeah. Yeah.
somebody
Yeah.
pays attention to themselves, they call it, oh, what a selfish person.
Right. Right.
Right.
Yeah, and that's a great point because um, even because what I just said about narcissism being used as a dirty word, so is selfish.
Right.
Right.
Yes.
Selfish has also been used pejoratively as a dirty word.
Right.
Whereas the truth is, we're supposed to be selfish.
Yes.
Right. Because selfish simply means taking care of yourself,
Right.
looking out for yourself, doing what's good for you.
Right. That the selfish that's famous in society is a concept that one pay attention to himself or herself and validates the rights of others.
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
Okay.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
So we're going to go back to narcissism, healthy and unhealthy narcissism. There's a whole bunch to talk about. We're not going to get to it all today, but we will make some inroads, and we hope that to see you back after our commercial break.
Absolutely. Looking forward to it.
Okay.
This is Heart-to-Heart program at KMET 1490 AM, ABC News Radio. For those of you just tuning us, our discussion in this segment is about addictions, codependency, trauma, and relationships. Dr. Mitra and Dr. Robert here. We would like to welcome you to our show. This is our first program at 4 p.m. Here we usually hold this program on Fridays at 9, but now we have a 2-hour back-to-back program starting at 3 p.m. So welcome, and we thank you for sharing your hour with us. We look forward to hearing from you. Please call us live at 951-922-3532. You may also contact us privately. Our email addresses are listed on our homepage at KMET. And you can also visit us at our YouTube program, heart-2-heart.online/YouTube. And we have a free download for you over there, which is definitely reflecting our topic today about healthy and unhealthy narcissism.
Exactly.
Dr. Robert?
Yes, ma'am.
Carry on, please. You have
yes,
the mic.
I'm going to carry on.
Yes.
So, I was asked over the break if healthy and unhealthy narcissism equates to healthy and unhealthy ego, and the answer is yes. Yes. Again, we all have an ego. We're not going to travel through life without one. and our egos can be healthy and our egos can be unhealthy. And so, what is the difference? So, one, there are a lot of differences between healthy and unhealthy ego, and you can equate that uh, with whether you believe that your needs and your thoughts and your feelings are always the right ones, right? Versus uh, my needs, my thoughts, and my feelings are mine. And if I'm with others, then I want to hear them and I want to take theirs into consideration before I decide what direction I'm going to go.
Right, right. Yeah.
Yeah. So what are you smiling about?
Well, something you said reminding me about something, and I'm not going to go into that right now.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Like I have to be right. The need to be right.
The need to be right.
It's
Yeah.
the ego
Yeah.
functioning,
Yeah. 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 So
That's part of that narcissism that we're talking about.
yes. Yes. The need to be right. And so why do we need to be right? Why is that important?
I'm all listening.
Well, so what I said before is we come to the earth with an ego. We come as human. The human is the ego. We come as a human being. The being is our spirit or our soul. And so the ego is about survival. And so at the beginning, when we first came here, we had to decide what is safe and what isn't safe in terms of what to eat, right? So the ego had to differentiate between a safe animal and an unsafe animal. Was I going to eat the animal, or was the animal going to eat me, right? And so the ego also had to decide, what is safe to eat as far as plant life, right? Is this a plant life going to kill me, or is it going to feed me? And so the ego is still looking for what is safe and what is unsafe. And because many of us, the majority of people, there's certainly a strong minority that this doesn't apply to, but the majority of us on a day-to-day basis are not looking for a survival things. Many of us have survival already down. We already have enough to eat. Again, I'm not saying for everybody, but many of us do. We have enough to eat. We have a place where we can reside, where we don't have to worry about the elements, and so our survival on a day-to-day basis is not really threatened. So the ego wouldn't have a job to do if it was just based on that physical survival. But the ego is very powerful, and so the ego then has expanded itself. And because we are now in a place where we talk a lot about concepts and ideas, and a lot of those are not about survival on a day-to-day basis. We talk about, building crafts to go into outer space. We talk about new electronics. We talk about all sorts of things that are not about survival on a day-to-day basis. So what happens then is the ego then looks to our feelings to tell us whether we're safe or not. And if I feel if I feel nervous, my ego is going to tell me, oh, I'm not safe. If I feel like somebody is telling me that I'm wrong, then they're not on my side. And if they're not on my side, then I'm not safe. And then I'm going to turn them into the enemy. So although we'll have a discussion about something, and if someone says, well, I disagree, immediately the ego pops in and goes, oh, disagreement, fear, this person isn't safe. You have to now either run away or kill this person. And we're not going to kill this person because then we're going to be arrested, and then we don't want to go through all of that. So we may kill them off emotionally. We may say, oh, this person is full of it, right? Or this person is an idiot, or this person is stupid. We try to put them down so that our ego feels in a one-up place.
And then we don't even want to hear them, and we make them feel wrong, and we push them back emotionally, like you said.
Right.
Right. And then whatever the other person comes up with, is pretty much, it's put back on them again, just because, we want to be right.
Right. Right. So for the ego, being right equates with survival. People don't think of it that way because people haven't been educated to understand what really is going on in terms of being human and the human being. So it's just a lack of education. But people know that when somebody disagrees with them, it doesn't feel good. And with that, with armed with that information, then they have to decide, well, what am I going to do if this person disagrees? And so what we can do is we can choose to either say, oh, well, you see it that way, and I'm curious, why do you see it that way? Or we can say, oh, you see it the wrong way because I'm seeing it differently. And if you're wrong, then you're dangerous. If you're wrong, if you're wrong, you're dangerous to me, right? You don't see things the same way I see things. So then we begin to dichotomize, and then we have a prejudice, right? And so, men are prejudiced against women. Women are prejudiced against men. White people are prejudiced against blacks. Blacks are prejudiced against Hispanics. Hispanics are prejudiced against Asians. Asians are prejudiced, blah, 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 blah.
And people are against those with an accent.
Those with an accent. You're either like me or you're unlike me. And if you're unlike me, you're dangerous. And if you're dangerous, I'm going to hate you.
Right. And speaking of, for example, here's an ego function. I have an accent, and I cannot deny that anywhere I go. The minute I say, hello, my name is Mitra, people say, there is a pause there first before they can react. So that pause, to a degree, is healthy. But then again, what makes it unhealthy is that when they start talking to me in a loud voice, it is as though, because English is my second language, I'm a sort of something wrong with me, or they need to talk to me in a louder voice so that I can understand them. I don't know what's going on in the person's mind when they start talking to me loudly. I went to visit somebody about 3 weeks ago, and the minute I introduced myself and we sat down to talk, and then I realized that the lady was sort of shouting, and I asked her, I said, you're shouting. Is there a reason for it? And she said, I wasn't shouting. I said, well, you are. And then, she realized that. And that was not the first time that happened, So I guess, that shouting to me indicates that,
they've made a judgment.
They made a judgment. Yes, they made a judgment. Here comes somebody from a different nation with an accent, and it could be, a potential something there. It's an unfamiliar situation. It's not something that, even though we live in California, which is very much diverse, right? But still, there are a large group of people that when it comes to diversity, their ego kind of becomes fragile,
Well, again, we're talking about diversity. We're talking about the healthy versus the unhealthy ego,
yes.
right?
Yeah.
So the healthy ego believes that, if my ego is healthy, then I believe that I'm important.
Right.
If my ego is healthy, then I believe that I am of value. If my ego is healthy, then I believe that I am knowledgeable. If my ego is healthy, then I believe that I am lovable. Now, if I have a healthy ego, and other people tell me that I'm not knowledgeable, that I'm not lovable, that I'm something else, my healthy ego will say, well, tell me why you think that.
Right, and also, exactly, this is very important point that I like to add to that, and please, feel free to comment on this. I like to know your opinion because you're big about ego. When I have a healthy ego, I treat myself in a kind way. I
Mm-hmm.
treat myself in a compassionate way.
Mm-hmm.
Like if I deserve to be lovable and I feel like I'm lovable, then I treat myself in a lovable way.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Right.
Am I correct on that?
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's what may come across to people who don't have a healthy, ego functioning as selfish.
Right.
So my treating myself in a loving way may come across to a person with an unhealthy ego functioning as selfish.
Right.
Right.
Right. So going back to narcissism, we're actually using the terms interchangeably.
Right.
Healthy narcissism, unhealthy narcissism, healthy ego, unhealthy ego. So what are some of the differences between those things? What is a healthy ego? How does a healthy ego think and react versus an unhealthy ego, or somebody who has healthy narcissism versus unhealthy narcissism? So somebody who is healthy is sensitive to perceived criticism or rejection. If I feel that somebody is criticizing me or rejecting me, I'm going to feel it, and I'm going to be sensitive to it. Now, that's one thing. So I become aware of it, and since I'm aware of it, I can respond to it. An unhealthy uh, ego or unhealthy narcissism means that I'm hypersensitive to criticism or rejection. So if I'm hypersensitive, that means instead of respond to it, I'm going to react to it. And so if I'm hypersensitive, I may get angry and start attacking you verbally, right? I may call you names. Um, I may take offense and get very defensive. If I'm healthy and I'm sensitive to perceived criticism or rejection, I may say to you, are you telling me that I'm wrong, or are you telling me that I shouldn't have my opinion? I might ask you those things, and then if the person actually says, well, you are wrong, then I say, well, in your opinion, I can say that, and then we can have a discussion if the person is open to discussing it. If the person isn't open to discussing it, I will say, I'm happy to discuss the point with you and tell you why I feel, and you could tell me why you feel. We can either come to an understanding that we feel differently, or maybe we'll convince each other that we have some valid points that we hadn't considered before. But that's part of that's part of having a healthy narcissism or healthy ego versus an unhealthy ego. Another part of it is when you have a healthy narcissism or healthy ego, you say to yourself and to others, I'm imperfect.
Mm-hmm.
I'm imperfect. I'm not always right. And so when I say this, I'm going to give you my opinion, but I'm open to the fact that I could be off on one of the things that I'm saying, or maybe even everything that I'm saying. But I'd like you to give me the courtesy of listening and asking me to clarify if you don't understand, and then I'll be happy to do the same for you. So I'm aware of what we would call character defects or imperfections, and I can say, yeah, sometimes I do overgeneralize, for example, or yeah, sometimes I do get defensive, and I was just defensive. I can say that when if I'm healthy.
Yeah, if I'm healthy, that's the key point,
Right.
And we see that many of these conversations, the healthy versus unhealthy or both unhealthy, plays out in relationships.
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
We see that among couples who come in with fighting and finger pointing and blaming, like you said at the beginning of the program, that you have this couple that the wife only calls her husband, he's a narcissist, he's a narcissist, he's a narcissist,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Without even recognizing that what about her, where is she herself in terms of her her attitude,
Right.
What kind of and when we accuse somebody of being a narcissist, narcissist, right? Right.
Yeah.
So some of that element must be in the other person.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right.
Right.
We can't just, I mean, we cannot in relationship diagnose it ourselves or
Right,
each other.
right, right. Yeah. So the healthy person is able to admit when they're wrong,
Right.
and able to say some things about them that they understand that they struggle with.
Right.
Okay. So so the unhealthy person was that what do? They project their own character defects onto others.
Right.
So if I am very selfish, then I will accuse you of being very selfish. Also, the unhealthy person gets very defensive, and how can you say that? Yes. How can you say that? And they protect themselves from an admission of any vulnerability. And so with that, we're going to take another quick break, and we'll be back shortly. Feel free to call us, 951-922-3532. We'll see you soon.
Beautiful, music. Welcome back, from our commercial break. Dr. Mitra and Dr. Robert here. This is Heart to Heart program at KMET 1490 AM, ABC News Radio. Welcome. This is our very first time that we have a 4 p.m. program here. We usually had this program on Fridays at 9 a.m., but now we have a 2-hour back-to-back program starting at 3 every Thursday. The first segment of our program is going to be about human sexuality, and the second part, it is about codependency, trauma, addictions, and relationships, and these two can kind of merge together across the 2 hour. We would like to invite you to please join us, ask questions, share your opinions, share your experiences. You don't have to say your name. And our phone number here live is 951-922-3532. And you may also, of course, contact us privately if you wish. And you can visit us at our YouTube, heart-to-heart online/YouTube. And Dr. Jaffe, you were talking about healthy and unhealthy narcissism.
Healthy and unhealthy narcissism, and we've said that it's pretty synonymous with healthy and unhealthy egos. And so we've been talking about some of the characteristics of healthy and unhealthy egos and healthy and unhealthy narcissism, and so one of the characteristics of a healthy narcissist or healthy ego is that the person assumes appropriate personal responsibility, which means that if they say they're going to do something, they do it. And if they can't do it, then they say that they can't do it. And if they say that they can do it, and then it turns out that they can't do it, they let the other person know as soon as possible, and they try and make arrangements for it to get done, even if they can't do it, right? Another word for this is integrity. Integrity really means the whole. You're a whole person, right? When you're integrous, that means that what you say, how you feel, how you think, and how you behave are all working together in one direction. When you're not in integrity, that means that you go off in different directions. So you may think one thing, you may act differently than you think. You may say one thing and you feel differently than what you say. You're non-integrous. So assuming appropriate personal responsibility is integrous, and that has to do with a healthy narcissism or healthy ego. What's the opposite of that? The opposite of that is blaming other people and avoiding personal responsibility. So if you're in a group at work and you made a mistake and you blame another person, that's your unhealthy ego at work. Mm-hmm. And that's you not wanting to take responsibility and feeling as though if you do, you're going to be blamed and injured to the point where you aren't going to be able to survive it. You may not think that in terms of a thought, but that's the feeling, and that's why you shift the responsibility. I don't want anybody to dislike me. And so therefore I will say whatever I have to say, whether it's true or not, so that people like me and agree with me. That's the unhealthy narcissism.
So kind of become that's the real codependent right there.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
That's one of the main characteristics of a codependent, right? To be a pleaser.
Right. So another characteristic that we're talking about is self-awareness.
Right.
Right. So a person with a healthy ego or healthy narcissism is aware of their needs, aware of their feelings, and their needs and their feelings matter to them. So that if somebody says something to them and they don't like it, they can say, I don't like that, and say why they don't like it. If they are aware that they are feeling a certain way, they can verbalize it appropriately. And so they let other people know where they stand. And so other people then have a sense that they're dealing with somebody who is solid, somebody who is talking the walk. Let's put it that way. Yes, saying what the truth is for them. A person who is unhealthy tends to be unaware or numb or hypersensitive. So that with these type of people, then you feel as though you're walking on eggshells, and you feel like you can't say your truth because they're going to explode, or they're going to blame you, or they're going to have a very, very negative reaction, and it's going to bring you down. And this goes along with being honest, right? So a person who is healthy wants to be honest and is honest. And sometimes they're honest to a fault. That doesn't mean that they use their honesty to hurt other people, because you can be honest and say it in a way that's not hurtful, or you can be bluntly honest, and that's not what we're talking about here. The person who is unhealthy is often dishonest because they're going to say whatever they need to say in order for them to come out smelling like a rose, right? So when someone says, I alone can do this and no one else can do it, that's unhealthy narcissism, because what they're saying basically is that they are so valuable that the world can't do without them. And of course, that's erroneous. One of them.
Do we have an example of that? The world can do without them?
We have many examples of that. And a lot of them are in politics.
Exactly.
Yeah, a lot of them are in politics.
Yeah, I mean, narcissism and politics are synonym, right?
Well, yeah, there are a lot of narcissists in politics, and I think part of that is the nature of politics, because oftentimes people who don't have who have an unhealthy ego and a need to be special and a need to be important are drawn to politics, where they can get that public approval,
right?
And they become very important and looked up to, and they have a need for power. And people who don't have a need to power oftentimes aren't drawn. Now, I'm saying this as a generality. It's not always true, but it's true a lot, where people are drawn to it because of the power that it gives them.
Exactly.
And people who are healthy often aren't seeking that kind of power.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, we see that. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, the main thing, I think, to me, this is the most important aspect of healthy and unhealthy egos and how it feels to be around them. The main thing, from my point of view, is that when you are around somebody who is healthy narcissist or healthy ego, you feel enlivened. You feel alive. You feel energized. That's the better word.
I like the word enlivening.
Enlivening. Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
I like the word.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I was having trouble with it. You feel enlivening. You feel like there's an energy that I like to tap into. I like being around this person. This person has something I want.
Yes.
And when you're around somebody who is unhealthy, you feel drained.
Well, it feels like you're walking on eggshells around the person that's, like that.
And it's toxic. It's toxic to your soul.
Yeah, exactly. Because, I mean, we talked earlier about, the anxiety and what anxiety does in body, right? If you're living with somebody who you always have to walk on eggshells because, their ego is going to be, the targeted in some way, no matter what you do or what you say. Look at the amount of cortisol that unnecessarily is going to be produced and the insulin and how that kind of backfires on the person who walks on the eggshells all the time.
Right. Yeah, very good. Very well said.
Right.
Absolutely.
So this is how this condition comes into the relationship.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. Yeah. Another characteristic of the healthy ego is that the person has empathy. They feel and express empathy, meaning that they can put themselves in the other person's place and imagine what it feels to be like that person and express that feeling to that person. I think I get it. I think I understand why you're feeling what you're feeling, and I think this is what it is. The person with unhealthy is perfectionistic, and the person who is unhealthy also has a lack of empathy. So they can't understand what it's like to be another person. And so when you're talking to somebody who doesn't have that ability to empathize, you feel as though you're talking with somebody who's more mechanical than human.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
The other thing is that we've been talking about the ego, and we've been talking about narcissism, and I've talked about the healthy narcissism and the unhealthy narcissism, and the healthy ego and the unhealthy ego. And I said that the human being is composed of both the ego and the spirit. So the human is the ego, the spirit is the being. And so what does the being value? And what does the human value? Okay, what does the ego value and what does the being value? So we've talked some about what the human being, but the human values, the ego, when it's an unhealthy ego, values winning and values being right. That's the unhealthy ego. But the spirit always values the same thing. The spirit always values love. The spirit always values intimacy, closeness with others.
Romance.
Communication,
healthy communication.
Yeah. Productivity.
Right.
And creativity.
Yes. Yeah. Compassionate.
Compassionate and creative.
Right.
We want to be. We want to. There's a line from the prophet that I really enjoy, and that is that love is work made visible.
Right.
And so what I was saying before is we all come to the world with our own particular talents and abilities, and we're drawn into those things if we are able to connect with our authentic true selves. We follow our passion. And so we create through our passion things that are our own love that we have created. The person who created the Empire State Building,
yes.
He had a passion.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. And he made that visible to others.
Right. Exactly. We say that, from a spiritual perspective, we are born into the world as our loving, authentic, true self, which is open, calm, curious, emotionally available, connected, honest, confident, compassionate, sexual, and trusting. And these are your own words, quote unquote, which usually, you say this at the beginning of the program, right?
Yeah, we've gotten away from that.
Yeah, and I didn't want to, miss out of those, because those are such a beautiful, spiritual word that, we must say it, and we must remind ourselves of our true nature. And this is our true nature. This is who we are, right?
Yes.
This is our healthy ego,
Mhm.
right? And we want to have that. We want to bring that into our relationships. We want to, be able to get up in the morning and with compassionate looking at each other.
Mhm.
We want to come and hold each other's hand. We want to, if one of us is suffering or is in a, difficult situation, we don't want to tell them, oh, you did that and I told you so and you shouldn't have done it.
Right.
We want to hug the person and say, honey, I'm sorry you're hurting. We're going to go through this together.
Mhm.
Right?
Mhm.
This is what life is all about.
Yes.
This is, what unhealthy narcissism does to us. It destroys the relationship.
Mhm.
But when we are who we are as our loving, authentic, true self, right? If we keep that perspective in mind, right,
Mhm.
and be able to talk and resolve the issues that we have, that's the life we all strive for. That's the life we all want to have. That's the life that we all aim for to it, right?
Right.
And we will continue to talk about all of this, in our upcoming programs. And we can see that despite all the differences, we are able to have a loving, compassionate, romantic relationship.
If we place value on those things,
Right.
it's up to us as human beings to decide how we want to spend our time, and our time is our most valuable commodity.
Exactly.
And how we wish to spend that, and learning how to be more loving with ourselves and with the people around us is a way towards fulfillment.
Exactly.
And unfortunately, a lot of people don't know that. And that's why we're
here.
And that's why we're doing these programs, to try to help people to recognize that money, possessions, fame, those aren't bad things.
Yeah.
But it doesn't really give you that sense of
all we need is love.
All we need is love.
Until next time, next Thursday, looking forward to seeing you back. And don't forget, all you need is love.
See you next time.
See you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Hello, listeners. This is Christopher from The Christopher Show. Hey, if you missed one of our shows here at KMET, don't worry about it. You can go to our webpage, and that's KMET1490am.com. Go to the homepage, click on the